For an act to amend the Bridge Authority Act. As many?
Thank you very much,
The
Madam
chair
Speaker.
recognizes the honourable member for St. Anne's.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. It took the member for South Eleuthera 4 minutes to get to the actual bill. We should be debating the bill right away. It took the member for Exuma and Ragged Island 10 minutes to get to the bill. We should be debating the bill right away. The member for Exuma and Ragged Island made reference to the member for Eleuthera at least 7 times. I don't know what happened to the rest of his colleagues, but I guess cabinet can be very difficult when these two are there because one is scratching the other's back while the other one is scratching the next one's back. Mr. Deputy Speaker, they're in the House of Assembly today. Madam Speaker, they're in the House of Assembly today to talk about the Bridge Authority. The Bridge Authority is an authority that came into effect in 1998 under the Free National Movement. That's another great institution created by the Free National Movement. We heard a lot of backstory about a company being in place in 1988. That's an effort to paint the Bridge Authority into the timeline of the Progressive Liberal Party, Madam Speaker, and the people aren't buying it, just as the same way they claim that they created NIB, they created the Defense Force, when really there were entities in place under prior to independence for those. So if they want to claim NIB, if they want to claim the Defense Force, the FNM is going to claim the Bridge Authority, Madam Speaker. And what they're being shy about is, while they're talking about bridges in Barry Tarry, and Eleuthera, South Eleuthera talked about the Russell Island Bridge, you have, in fact, an acknowledgement by this great former Prime Minister, Dr. Hubert Minnis, who put that bridge in Russell Island. The PLP let that rusted bridge get so dilapidated in all of their administrations, they didn't even check for North Eleuthera for Russell Island. They weren't even checking for Cat Island, they weren't checking for Eleuthera, they weren't checking for Exuma, Madam Speaker, until the last FNM administration came in and started doing major infrastructure work in these family islands. First asphalt paving plant, mobile asphalt paving plant appeared in Exuma under the Free National Movement, Madam Deputy Speaker. Now they're talking about bridges, they're talking about being invested in infrastructure in this country. This is downtown, Nassau, downtown, right now, today. You know what the catastrophe is here that they can't handle? The catastrophe here that they can't handle is called high tide. Okay, high tide. High tide got the street flooded in Nassau, Bahamas, and they're here talking about what they're going to do for Barry Tarry, what they're going to do for the glass window bridge. You know, like the bridge itself is a beautiful thing. The deep dark ocean on one side of the area of North Eleuthera that is known as the glass window bridge, and then the shallow, beautiful aquamarine water on the other side. That's the wonder of the world, Madam Speaker. The only wonder of the world, Madam Speaker, that this PLP administration is bringing is the Bahamian people are wondering if they all talk and no action. Because so far to date, Madam Speaker, they've been all talk and no action. The member for Exuma and Ragged Island attempted to say that the leader of the FNM voted in support of this Saudi funding for $70 million or $30 million, which is going to allow the airport project in Eleuthera to go ahead. The fact is that the member for Exuma and Ragged Island only brought it to this House for a vote to be laid on it after continued pressure from the leader of the FNM, Michael Clifton Pintard, from continuous denials and avoidance by the Deputy Prime Minister and the Prime Minister. Michael C. Pintard pointed out that this is a loan that can only be entered into by the Prime Minister. You can't get in the way of PLP excitement. If the Deputy Prime Minister can go to the Middle East and sign big deals with sheiks and Arabs, that is the greatest thing, that is the greatest accomplishment, that is the greatest excitement of this New Day administration. It doesn't matter, Madam Speaker, that they did it the wrong way around. It doesn't matter, Madam Speaker, that they did it without legal authority. But we know that they did because they came back into this House to have it passed by Parliament, and only then did it become a legal action. And that is, Madam Speaker, the type of action that the Free National Movement will always adhere to, legal actions. That's why we got back in support of it when it came the proper way, and that can't be denied. Now, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I let the leader of government business, the honourable member for Freetown, know that I was going to try to keep my contribution to 10 minutes. It's important, Madam Speaker, that I bring first attention to the fact that we now have a Parliamentary Service Commission, which means that Parliament, the legislative branch of government, is independent of the executive branch. Yet when you look at the rules of procedure for this Honourable House of Assembly, you still have an order of procedure which allows ministers to give statements before we get into the people's business, the legislative business, which is the debates, Madam Speaker. I think that there needs to be change to the rules of procedure of this House so that those cabinet ministers that want to stand up and grandstand and pat themselves on the back, they can do that not only after the debate, Madam Speaker, but they can do that after member statements. And they shouldn't be allowed, Madam Speaker, as cabinet ministers, the executive branch, to come into our House, Madam Speaker, the legislative House, and speak for any length of period of time when members of Parliament and giving their member statements are restricted to 3 minutes. That needs to change, Madam Speaker, and I fully support any other member of this Honourable House of Assembly that's willing and prepared to do that. Now, Madam Speaker, I'm going to bring the people's attention to this bill which we have before us. And, Madam Speaker, I looked at the proposed amendment. I looked at the notes that I had made. There is an amendment that needs to be made to the proposed amendment itself, Madam Speaker, at Section 2E, what is an amendment to the main act being Section 4. They're intending to introduce a new subsection D and E, but at the end of subsection 4E, which is under Section 2 of the amendment, they have a comma at the end of the last subsection that needs to be changed to be a full stop, Madam Speaker. Even my son in elementary school can tell you that you end with a full stop, Madam Speaker. That's a minor change. I pointed out things like this before. They brush it off like they'll do it when the amendment's been done. But, Madam Speaker, I think that when the legislative branch is being asked, if you look at the amendment at Section 2, Section 2 is amending Section 4 of the Principal Act. And there's going to be an insertion of a new subsections D and E. And subsection E ends with a comma. So the amendment that goes into the act needs to end with a full stop. Thanks. Now, Madam Speaker, we heard very little from the mover and seconder on the motive, but I was glad that Exuma and Ragged Island actually spoke to the reason behind this. South Eleuthera, Central Eleuthera talked about Barry Tarry bridges, Russell Island bridges. He didn't mention any of the bridges in Grand Bahama. They attempted, Madam Speaker, to say that while it's no longer just going to be the 2 Paradise Island bridges covered under the Bridge Authority Act, it's going to be all bridges. They attempted to say that there'll be no toll fee for use of those bridges.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Central and South Eleuthera.
All bridges fall under the Bridge Authority. It gives the Bridge Authority the option, ask the minister the option to take bridges and put them where the Bridge Authority has a mandate to maintain, construct, and all of that falls under that. It's not a mandate that all bridges automatically fall under this act.
Thank you, honourable member.
That's wonderful to hear, Madam Speaker, but there isn't anything in this act that says a particular bridge will never come under this act. The authority is within the minister, that is the minister responsible for public works, and that minister can designate by notice any bridge that he wants to come under the Bridge Authority. That's a fact. That's correct. See? So, Madam Speaker, the point I was getting at is technically all of the bridges, and I made a note from the comments from the Minister of Works. There are 40 bridges in the Bahamas. This is his statement. Obviously, he's taken an inventory. What you taking an inventory? Why'd you count something if it's not important to you? So obviously, an inventory is being taken of the bridges. 17 are major, Madam Speaker. Maybe major means the most valuable. And then you had Chester Cooper, excuse me, Madam Speaker, the member for Exuma and Ragged Island come in and say that we're gonna consider putting the Bridge Authority into a consolidated fund or into a sovereign fund that we can leverage. That's what's going on here, Madam Speaker. So between Exuma and Ragged Island's statement about putting the Bridge Authority and its major 17 valuable asset bridges into a separate fund that they can leverage, Madam Speaker, you also have this issue of the tolls. Those are the two important factors, Madam Speaker, that the Bahamian public need to be aware of.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Exuma and Ragged Island.
I made reference to a blueprint for change, and it had no specific connotations as being implied by the member for St. Anne's. So I don't want to be misquoted. The Bill Authority Amendment Bill,
Bridge Authority.
the Bridge Authority Amendment Bill makes specific provisions, firstly, for any bridge designated by the minister to be transferred to the Bridge Authority. That's what we're doing here today. The minister articulated that this will allow us, the government, to access funding through, I believe he referenced UKEF, to allow further development of bridges. My analogy to our Blueprint for Change was to demonstrate that we are being innovative and we are applying similar principles as we committed to do in the Blueprint for Change. I just want to be very clear in the event that the member misunderstood and is not intentionally trying to be mischievous.
Thank you, honourable member. You may proceed.
Madam Speaker, I heard something different. I heard something about a fund there. I didn't hear this calm and collected Blueprint for Change from the good member who, within 4 minutes of his contribution, began to attack the history of the past administrations and the history of our leader. But I didn't make a recording for myself. I didn't take minutes. I don't appreciate that the member for Exuma and Ragged Island is already starting after the summer break to stand up midway through opposition members' contributions and give rebuttals. You had your chance. You had your chance to give your contribution. You have 32 other members, 31, not including yourself. Let some of them have an opportunity to speak once in a while. It doesn't always have to be Exuma, Ragged Island, and Central and South Eleuthera. Let the good gentleman from North Andros and the Berry Islands, let the good member from North Abaco have a chance to speak. Let the good member from Mount Moriah, let the good member from Sea Breeze have a chance to speak. Mr. Deputy Prime Minister, this is the House of the Legislature. This is not the House of the Executive. Every single person here has been given the vote by their constituents to allow them to be here, and they should all be given a free opportunity to speak. We don't need to hear you rebutting. We don't need to hear you rebutting midway through this good member's contributions. If there's a point, let one of your other colleagues stand up and show their constituents that they're here actively working on their behalf. Now, Mrs. Speaker, Madam Speaker, what you have is this claim from Central and South Eleuthera that there aren't going to be tolls for any of these other bridges. You know, you've been forewarned. The second a PLP tells you that they're not going to do something, they're basically letting you know that this could be done. Now, if that's not true, show me the section in the amendment which says we will never levy a toll on these other bridges added to the Bridge Authority by the notice from the minister. There is an amendment there. So the act itself, which right now deals with the two Paradise Island bridges, and we're okay taxing the people that can live on Paradise Island, taxing the people that want to venture over to Atlantis. But when they come to Barry Tarry Bridge, Madam Speaker, when they come to the Russell Island Bridge, Madam Speaker, and they want to raise revenue, they haven't prohibited the use of tolls under the act for raising revenue for those bridges. They claim that you'll see these fluorescent lights, you'll see these fluorescent signs, you know, so we're going to do marketing. We're going to sell you, we're going to do advertisements. That's how we're going to raise money to maintain the bridges throughout the Commonwealth of Bahamas. Come on, members of the public. You can't believe that a fluorescent advertisement sign is going to pay to maintain these bridges. These are very significant infrastructure items. This administration can't even take care of the bridges in Barry Tarry without borrowing from some foreign body, which was mentioned in their contribution here today. So what you also have to think of is besides advertising and unique revenue streams, what other means are they going to use to generate income? Now, presently with just the two bridges, they generate a lot of money. I know that the board, particularly the chairman of the Bridge Authority, is probably one of the highest paid board positions in the Commonwealth of Bahamas, possibly rivaled only by the Gaming Board, go figure, and IRCA. It's incredible to learn the amount of salary that is being paid to some of these government boards, Madam Speaker. But that's because the Paradise Island Bridge Authority, the Bridge Authority, generates a lot of revenue. They're not going to be generating revenue from the Russell Creek Bridge. They're not going to be generating revenue from the Barry Tarry bridges, Madam Speaker. Something they haven't mentioned in this act is that this act also speaks to property owned by the Crown, property owned by government. I don't know why they didn't give more attention to this before, but property owned by the Crown, property owned by the government, pertinent to basically fixed and or surrounding the bridges will be conveyed to the Bridge Authority. So does that mean that part of Potter's Key? Does that mean that part of the seabed running through the harbor, because those are pieces of land owned by the Crown that are happening to the bridges going over and coming back from Paradise Island, are going to be conveyed to the Bridge Authority? Something for my good former boss member for Freetown, because I know he has an analytical mind, can look at this legislation, is, and even member for Fort Charlotte, who's a great dancer to Buffalo Soldier, Madam Speaker, as we all learned over the summer break. Yeah. So what they, you know, I don't throw alley-oops, Madam Speaker, and not expect the person to slam him down, Madam Speaker. That's the kind of generous member of Parliament I am. I'm an equal opportunist because I get the assist. Is my point, Madam Speaker. But if Freetown and Fort Charlotte could look at the legislation, the way the legislation is now is that by the amendment which creates a new Section 5A in the Bridge Authority Act, it's under the amendment bill that we're debating here today under Section 3. This relates to the vesting or transfer of property to the Bridge Authority. And it says, by 5A, all interests acquired by or held by the government of the Bahamas in any property are pertinent to and necessary for the construction and use of any bridge specified in paragraphs D and E of Section 4 shall vest in and be held by the Bridge Authority or be transferred by the government of the Bahamas to the Bridge Authority for the construction and use thereof. The issue I'm asking both Freetown and Fort Charlotte to look at is it the intention that this vesting and transfer of property is only to relate to the bridges specified by the minister in an order in the Gazette, meaning all future bridges, and therefore not including the two existing Paradise Island bridges? Because if it's the intention that all bridges should have this vesting ability, then I think that there needs to be an amendment here so that it's not specified only to D and E, and that it's specified to all bridges, either currently under the Bridge Authority Act, being the two Paradise Island bridges, and then any other future one the minister, by order in the Gazette, adds to the Bridge Authority's control. So that's an important amendment, you know? So, okay, so it specifically doesn't apply to the Paradise Island bridges, which is my point. My question, however, is that your intention? Is it your intention that no land will be vested in the Bridge Authority for the Paradise Island bridges that are appurtenant to those bridges?
The chair recognizes the honourable member
The
for
whole
Freetown.
purpose of the amendment is to vest property that is necessary for the construction and use of the bridge. All property that was necessary for the construction and use of the Paradise Island bridges already vested. And so it's only an issue now going forward.
Okay, so it's only an issue now for the bridges going forward, which Madam Speaker means that there's no land surrounding the Paradise Island bridges that is going to be added to what the Bridge Authority currently has. So what's in the Bridge Authority's control now is going to remain all that there is. There isn't, for instance, any surrounding land on the New Providence side or on the Paradise Island side that's going to be added to the Bridge Authority, and then for economic reasons to generate more money beyond these fluorescent sign advertising, allow that land to be leased as a marina. Someone develop the marina, and then the Bridge Authority receives income on a regular basis to assist with revenue generation. I'm glad that that's been made clear here, and I hope to never hear something to the contrary down the road, because the government's job isn't just to show how MP for St. Anne's is incorrect, Madam Speaker, but it's to stand by what they say in this honorable House. Madam Speaker, there are a lot of concerns that I've raised here today. I think that the public needs to be made aware that this government has not amended the Bridge Authority legislation to prevent tolls on additional bridges. So they're not, even though they're trying to tell you in the House they're not going to do it, they're not protecting you in any way until they make an amendment. So you can continue to wonder if and when you're going to be charged the toll fare, Madam Speaker, for the bridges in your community and the use thereof, and potentially if you don't pay, they may restrict your access, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, with those comments and contributions to matters here today, I'm just going to conclude with the fact that it's all not sunshine and roses with this present PLP government. They celebrated the 3rd anniversary in administration just earlier over the recent week on the 16th, and it was that day that a terrible loss of a historic site, the former Reinhard Hotel. You can always count them. I think I said Bologna in here one day, Madam Speaker, and the whole chorus, the whole church stood up and said, "No, he said Bologna. That's baloney." I know what baloney is, my brothers and sisters. Right? You see? That's the good member for Engliston just tried to pull a sibling move on me, and you know, she came back at me and then she said no back shot, so no talk back. No talk back, you know? Like I said it, I got you, now don't come back at me. Now, I mean, she said she made a comment about baloney, Madam Speaker, and I know all about it because, you know, if I was to say I look at it in this honorable House every day, but that's not true. You got good members over there trying to do their best, but the fact is, 3 years on the anniversary, a historic site, that hotel, which was the headquarters for the PLP in the 1967 victory, came crumbling down. Over the hill communities, Madam Speaker, historic buildings came crumbling down. And, you know, I'm a God-fearing man. I came after today's prayer. I'm not sure if our chaplain made mention of the fact that an act of God should be seen of good, should be taken for the sign that it is, but that original PLP headquarters came crumbling down on the 3rd anniversary, Madam Speaker, and for me, that's a sign from God, and I think for many of the people, the public, that's a sign from God. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member.